All right, you guys, and welcome to Taking Flight with me, Mike Rocket Blackstone. New development, and this is crazy. Today we've got an article on CNBC News titled, How China Developed Its First Large Domestic Airliner to Take on Boeing and Airbus. I'm going to go through this article with you. It's only a week old now, but kind of interesting, and what we're talking about here, it might surprise you. Here you go.
Between the world's largest economies, that would be the U.S. and China, it's taking place in the sky. There's a state-owned Chinese company that's developed a passenger jet, the C919, to challenge America's Boeing and Europe's Airbus jets. Now, China has never been able to make anything like a 737 before now. So how'd they do it? Chris Van Cleve has been digging into it. It's a CBS News investigation. Chris, good morning. It's like something out of a spy novel.
Good morning, Tony. It really is. It is a fascinating story, and critics say the development of this airplane is not only an effort to elbow Boeing out of the huge Chinese market, but also to gain access to U.S. technology that could benefit the Chinese military. This isn't...
Check this thing out. Just a new right there. Look at this. Look at the shot of this thing. If this doesn't look like a Boeing 737, what does? It's kind of a mix between this C919, they're calling it. This Chinese aircraft is strikingly similar to a Boeing 737 in size, dimensions, and an Airbus A320. They're calling it a knockoff of our aircraft here, and here's how they found this out. Check this out here.
It's a growing threat to the U.S. economy that's poised to take off. The Chinese-built C919 is so important to the Chinese Communist Party, it's been called a source of national pride.
Aerospace is part of the game of nations.
John Ostrower, editor of the Air Current, has tracked the progress of the C919 for years.
The ability to design an airplane, it ultimately represents self-reliance, modernity, the desire to engage with the world.
It's been a top strategic goal for over a decade. Now,
I've actually been to the Boeing plant in Seattle, Washington, and this facility looks surprisingly similar to the Boeing factory, where there's no cameras allowed, of course, in Boeing's factory, and this is obviously a factory that makes modern airliners. And what's surprising about this whole situation here is literally what it means to create an aircraft from scratch that competes on the level of a Boeing or Airbus aircraft. And I'm all for competition, don't get me wrong, so initially you think, well, who cares? Shouldn't anybody be able to build a aircraft and compete in the world of aviation? And my answer to that would be totally yes, of course, competition is fair, but where it goes off the rails here is literally when you, for example, get a job over at Ferrari and work there for 5 years, steal all their designs, and then go start your own company called, I don't know, F919, and now suddenly you've got yourself a Ferrari that looks a lot like the real Ferrari, but you've copied it. That is where you got to draw the line here. So theft, not cool. Competition, cool. This is where we're at right now. Let's continue.
Large, low-cost domestic airliner positioning China to one day capture one of the world's largest markets for jets, potentially costing the U.S. economy up to $1.5 trillion over the next 20 years.
Oh my gosh. So if this goes on, what we're talking about here is literally like a market of over 8,000 aircraft to be sold over the next 20 years. 1.5 trillion is not a small number by any stretch of the imagination. China's poised to attempt to take that market away from American manufacturer Boeing and from Airbus. Again, if they just were to go out and do it on their own, fine. Or if you want to buy Boeing and you say, hey, you know what, I'll buy Boeing aircraft. I'd like to build those airplanes in China. Awesome. I checked the price or the value of Boeing this morning. I believe it to be on order of about 120 billion, if I'm not mistaken. Get your checkbook out. If you want to buy Boeing, buy it. If you want to compete against Boeing, you better do your own development, your own design, your own creation, your own manufacturing techniques, and have at it. It's a tough industry, and I commend anyone willing to try, like Tesla did. They didn't go out and copy GM. They invented a whole new industry, a whole new business, and a whole new vehicle. So yes, interesting. Continuing on here, check this out.
You're talking about a market of about 8,000 airplanes. And if China wants a chunk of that, that fundamentally means fewer airplanes for Boeing and Airbus to deliver.
China unveiled the prototype to much fanfare, and after lengthy delays, the first completed C919 was finally delivered to a Chinese airline 4 months ago. If this national emblem of China looks a lot like an Airbus A320 or Boeing 737, that's by design, according to current and former national security officials like Matt Pottinger.
It really looks like a knockoff.
60% of the plane's components are the result of deals with America's top aerospace companies.
China
60%. Oh my God. So, and you see what these guys did. They've gone in and stolen the technology and made deals with multiple companies and figured out how to reverse engineer an airliner and then build one using that technology illegally, really. So take a look at this, this graphic here showing all of the companies that China has used literally to copy their design and then create their own version of the airplane to compete against Boeing and Airbus. Not cool.
Has a lot of different varieties of ways of relieving people of their intellectual property.
The price of admission to China's lucrative market is steep.
If you want to sell stuff to 1.3 billion people in China, you're going to have to give us the blueprints for your goods, or you're going to have to go into a joint venture with us where you're going to train our engineers, and this is what we call forced technology transfer.
But national security experts say
forced technology transfer. Wow. So, so when you work with China, basically, they're going to force you into giving them your intellectual property rights, encouraging you, forcing you to share your design ideas in order to gain access to their 1.3 billion population. I find that to be not okay, collusive and abusive, really, to these companies that are operating in China now.
There's another way China acquires American innovation: espionage.
Do you feel like they stole an airliner?
I don't feel that way. I think that's a fact.
Bill Evanina was America's top counterintelligence official when the Department of Justice exposed an intricate scheme targeting American aviation technology.
How strong is the link between Chinese espionage and the C919?
It's directly related. So the Chinese Communist Party can no longer say, we don't utilize our intelligence apparatus to conduct economic espionage. This is now proof that they do, and they've been very successful at it.
A 2019 CrowdStrike report revealed one major focus of Beijing's spycraft: components of the C919. Evidence gathered by U.S. investigators and shared with CBS News shows Chinese intelligence officer Xu Yanjun used aliases, front companies, and false documents, as well as an intense hacking effort. One main target, a GE aviation engineer who specialized in jet engine design.
First process is what they do all the time: invite him over to China to give a speech. Very benign. What does he do at GE? What are the types of unclassified things he's working on?
Xu's requests grew bolder, catching the attention of the FBI. Agents launched a sting directing the GE employee and listening to his communications as they planned to meet in person again. Speaking in Chinese, Xu asked him to bring his company laptop so Xu could look over the stuff. The employee assured him, "I certainly will have the computer." 2 months later, Xu traveled to Belgium to meet the employee, but the FBI was waiting. He was brought to the U.S. to stand trial, and late last year, sentenced to 20 years for spying.
Wow. So this guy Xu. So this isn't new. This isn't something that this is the first time this has happened. He isn't the only guy, obviously, involved in this process. It takes an army of people to do what has occurred here. This is massive espionage on an industrial level to benefit motherland China. I mean, this is as blatant as it could possibly be. I'm sure it's got the attention of the FBI, and now it's got the attention of the rest of the world. I'm hoping that this doesn't get to go any further, and we don't continue to condone this type of behavior, and hopefully, certainly no one who can be directly impacted from the purchase of these aircraft when I'm sure they go on sale at some point to the rest of the world. These only have been on the market for, say, about 4 months now, operating only in China. When they come to market and are allowed to operate in the rest of the world, will the world buy them? Will we be swept away in the cheap price, which I'm sure it will be, half the price or less than an Airbus or a Boeing? I'm hoping that is not the case, but you can see that benefiting and enriching yourself from espionage and theft and literally committing a federal crime on this kind of a scale should not be rewarded. Let's continue with the article. We're almost done here.
It was monumental. It's the first time ever where we arrested, indicted, convicted in a jury, and sentenced a known intelligence officer running a cell collecting aviation technology to benefit the civilian and military apparatus of the Communist Party of China.
Xu's sentencing memo reveals 2 Chinese state-owned companies involved in building the C919 were the intended recipients of his spycraft.
Beijing's goals for its aerospace industry, it's not to just be one of a few competitors. It is to dominate the global space and drive its competitors out of business.
They not only want Boeing and Airbus out of China, they want them out of business.
Certainly. Do you remember Alcatel, Marconi, Nortel? These are all Western companies in the space of making telecommunications equipment. Those companies don't exist anymore. They're dead. And Airbus and Boeing are on the kill list now.
The C919 could fly its first passengers in China any day now, but it has not been approved by the FAA, so it's not likely that you will see it at U.S. airports in the foreseeable future. Notably, Boeing and Airbus declined comment for this story. In a statement, GE Aviation credited its advanced security systems and cooperation with the FBI for helping identify that Chinese spy.
Thank you, Chris. Good to have you here.
Wow. So there you have it, you guys. The stories here on cbsnews.com. And as you scroll down here, we'll go ahead and post that for you so you can kind of take a look at the article, read through it. And there we go. Let me get back to it for you here. There it is. You'll be able to read it. Obviously, most of it is in the video format as well. It's shocking, and I hopefully shed some light onto this. As a Boeing pilot, I've always flown Boeings. The Airbus is apparently a really good airplane too. I've never flown one, but they're both nervous. You can see Boeing and Airbus are both have not spoken about this. It's concerning, and I'm sure that they are taking the appropriate actions to secure their intellectual property rights, which are clearly under attack here. So you've been watching Taking Flight with me. My name is Mike Rocket Blackstone. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like. I appreciate that. It helps us with our delivery of this type of content. And go ahead and leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear what you have to think about this situation with China creating the C919. Is it okay? Is it something that they should be allowed to do, or should the world be working to block it from operating? What do you think? Mike Blackstone here at Taking Flight. We'll see you in the next episode.